Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, I told you, cruise lines were chomping at the bit to get rid of the testing mandate, and one cruise line decided, yeah, we're going to take that leap right now. While this isn't the largest cruise line in the world, they have a lot of ships, but they have a lot of river ships as well as ocean ships. Viking Cruise Lines, including Viking Ocean, has decided, they said, in light of what the CDC has now said, that they no longer require testing for flights internationally into the United States if you've been vaccinated. They said, well, because they say that it's safe now, they don't need to do testing, we're going to follow suit and we're going to do the exact same thing because the CDC said you don't need it for international travel. We're international travel, so we're not going to do it on our ships. Well, sort of. And I found it really funny that they kind of said that because you still will have to have a pre-COVID test if it's required by the destination that you're traveling to. Currently, they don't list which countries that they're traveling to on their ships require that test before you're allowed to head to that country. A lot of countries have done away with that now, but for cruising, they're still in place for certain itineraries. However, they only have 2 ships currently sailing in the United States and Canada. One of them is the Viking Orion, which is currently doing Alaska sailings until September out of Vancouver. And then we have the brand new Viking Octanus that a lot of people are excited about. It's one of their first expedition type cruise ships. They have submarines on board. It's a beautiful ship from everything I've seen in accounts of it. It's currently sailing in the Great Lakes between Canada and the United States, and it will also it did part of its season in the Antarctica. It's a beautiful ship. They're sailing in the United States, and you have to provide a COVID test for those 2 ships. But you just said the CDC doesn't require it anymore. But now you're telling us that you have to have it on the ships that are actually sailing in the United States. That sounds kind of funny to me. It really, really does. And again, this could be the problem with a lot of the bigger cruise lines who are sailing internationally around the world, is if they end testing requirements, but they require testing in certain countries, does that mean they're going to have to go by a ship-by-ship basis in order to tell people whether or not you need to get a test before getting on the ship? Hey, it's super confusing. Super, super confusing already, let alone having to go by your individual ship whether or not you're going to need to have testing requirements or not. For instance, my cruise coming up on the Celebrity Beyond, I looked it up and I was letting my friend Alicia know, who's coming with me on that sailing. Hey, this is the protocols for when we go. We don't need a pre-flight test to get on the flight. We can fly to Italy. We don't need a COVID test as long as we're vaccinated and have our proof of vaccine. Great. But when we arrive, the day of the cruise, we have to take a test at the cruise port. So it's going to be a longer embarkation. It's going to take a little bit longer and everything like that. Great. I sent her all the information. 3 days later, they changed the protocols that you no longer do get tested at the site. You now have to provide a test 2 days before the cruise, which means when you fly to Italy, because of the time change, a 7-hour change in time, and you lose time, it makes it much harder to get that test within a 2-day period, because you have to fly in the day before, and it's actually 2 days before. You see my point. So yeah, things are changing all over the place. Now, can you imagine having to go to a website of the cruise line and look up your individual ship to find out, yes, this ship requires testing, and then, 2 weeks later, the ship goes from this port. It's instead of leaving from Rome, it's now leaving from Barcelona, and Barcelona has different testing requirements than Rome does, and so they have to list by actual disembarkation port. Oh my goodness, what a mess. What a mess that would be. And it might be easier for Viking to do it because most of their fleet is river cruises and they leave from certain ports all the time. And the ocean, you know, they're limited to, we're the ones that they already said, hey, we're going to follow the CDC. You don't need to get tested. But in the United States, because there's so many different ports that you're going to in Canada, yeah, you're going to have to get tested. So they're not even going to bother with trying to figure it out. It's interesting. It's just very interesting. Let's see if the bigger cruise lines will follow suit. And one big cruise line did follow suit with another one with a very unpopular decision. Let me tell you about that. But first, let me just invite you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Keeps you up to date with all these changing protocols, all the cruise news, as well as all the ships launching and cruise vlogs and destination tips, tricks, money-saving ideas. Doesn't cost a thing to hit that subscribe button, but it certainly does really help the channel out. It tells YouTube, hey, people like cruising videos and interesting stories about cruising. Let's share it to more people and see who else is interested. That's really all it does, and it really does help the channel out a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Okay, the unpopular decision. Just the other day, we had Princess Cruise Line saying all sailings to Alaska out of Vancouver have to wear a mask now. People were not happy about it, but it's the decision that they made for now. Well, guess what? Holland America has one-upped that a little bit, and they said all sailings now going to Alaska starting today, from when they issued this, will now have to wear a mask on board. That includes sailings out of Seattle as well as out of Vancouver, which means, and also seaward if you're leaving out of Antarctica, out of Anchorage. So basically, Alaska seems to be the travel, you know, the hard point right now. They say out of an abundance of caution, man, if there's one phrase I've started to hate, it's that out of an abundance of caution phrase that we've learned during this pandemic. Because every rule that comes out is out of an abundance of caution. Just say, hey, we're making this decision. Stop saying because of an abundance of caution. Just say we're making a change. Because it's starting to grate on me. That's that phrase. But they said because of a rise in cases in the area and in the region, that all guests will now have to, 2 years and older, will have to wear a mask on board everywhere inside the ship except while eating and drinking and in your staterooms. This also, by the way, goes for their cruise tours. So if you're going to their hotels and places like that, you'll also have to wear a mask as well. Their transportation system, the trains and the buses going to the hotel, you're going to have to wear a mask on board. Yeah, and if you're saying, well, I don't like that idea, contact your agent or contact the cruise line themselves. Every cruise line has their own policy when dealing with like the changing of health protocols, but it does state right there in the contract that COVID-19 health protocols can change at a moment's notice, including mandatory mask wearing on the ship. And it says right there, you are not entitled to a refund. Right in the cruise contract, it does state it right there. And as you purchase it, you're accepting those rules. I know no one reads that small print, but it's definitely in there. Now, what happens if you decide to disobey? I'm not going to follow those rules. It also states in the emails that they sent out that non-compliance of these COVID rules, you may not be allowed to board the ship or you may be disembarked off the ship. So if you're caught not wearing a mask around and they are enforcing it and they go to you and they say, put it on, and you say, nope, I'm not going to wear it off at all, I don't have to, well, you could be escorted off the ship at the very next port, and at that point, all expenses are now yours. I don't know how much of a stand you want to make, but yeah, it seems to be going on mostly in Alaska right now. So far, haven't heard anything from Carnival or Royal Caribbean or Norwegian Cruise Line in that area, but we'll wait and see if they follow suit. This could be something coming from Alaska itself, because there's only a limited population in Alaska to service all the cruise people that are going there and all the guests. And if they start having to quarantine people in Alaska at all the different places, they're not going to be able to offer the experiences that are going on. Plus the medical down there is much more limited than it would be in a bigger city. So it could be coming from Alaska saying, hey, maybe ask everyone to wear a mask, please. We want to do whatever we can to limit the spread here in our towns, just in case. I'm not sure. It could just be the cruise line saying, hey, so many people going to Alaska now have been COVID, because it's the most popular destination at this current time. More than the Caribbean, more than Europe, more than anywhere else, Alaska is #1 at this time of year. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. We'll see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world. Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.